So welcome everyone to the next in the Bride Books webinar series, Selling Your Business Back to Success. The first one that I'm hosting, and as I said earlier, I can't quite work out whether it is more nerve-wracking doing this over Zoom or less than if we were in face-to-face. But I'm very excited to be running through this with you today. Just to introduce myself, my name is Callum. I'm the lead venue consultant here at Bridebook. I think I've spoken to a few of you on the phone. My background is that I've worked in consultative sales for the past 10 years. It's quite scary now that it's been a decade. And it's been across a range of different industries, such as interior design, marketing agencies, and in the third sector. And I think many of you may ask, what's the connecting thread? They're all quite different. And the thing for me has always been, I'm passionate about helping people and SMEs achieve their full potential. You'd be amazed at the parallel kind of challenges that an interior designer in their design business faces that are very similar to the challenges that you're facing as a venue owner with your businesses, just a slightly different context. So that's why I'm here to talk to you about selling today. What we are going to cover, just so you're really clear, we are going to talk about the objective that I would like you to come away from this session with. We're going to focus a bit on a selling mindset. We're going to spend some time very quickly talking about what you can do now and why focus on 2022 is so important. But the bulk of the time that we're going to spend talking is around creating your action plan and how you execute on this, because that's the really important bit. We'll touch on 2023 and beyond. I'll try to impart some wisdom with some top sales tips. I am a bit of a geek when it comes to psychology of selling, so I'll talk you through some of that. And then, as I say, at the end, there'll be lots of time for questions, and I want us all to finish with one next step that you're going to take away from today to implement into your business. So, without further ado, today's objective. I really want you to come away with at least one thing that you can look to implement as part of your selling strategy for 2021, 2022 and beyond. If I don't give you something, please feel free to give me the feedback I haven't. There will be things in here that are potentially teaching you to suck eggs, so bear with me on that bit. But I really do hope you have at least one light bulb moment throughout today's talk. And I know we've probably got a range of people in terms of experience, time working within the industry, time working within the business on the call today. I want to kind of hopefully imbue some sense of, you feeling more confident in your ability to sell and your ability to really take your business forward, particularly because we have engagement season coming up. So first thing first, I want to just ask the question of, what do you think of when you think of a salesperson? Now, I've definitely prompted an answer that I was expecting here, but I think often when we say, what do you think of when you think of a salesperson, it has some quite negative connotations and can often, conjure an image of a car salesman trying to get one over on you. So really what I want to do and talk about briefly is what's really helped me in my career as a salesperson is, I love some of those things. Pushy, overconfident, Del boy. I think we all kind of have that sense, and that negative connotation that comes with selling can be something that holds us back. So one of the things that's massively helped me in my career is really, reframing my mindset around what I do as a salesperson. And for me, the thing that I focus on is I'm there to help people solve problems. That really helps me kind of get excited about what I'm doing, because I don't think it's then about pushing a product onto a person. It's about helping them find a solution to the problem that they are facing, which immediately adds kind of lots of value to both parties and really helps refrain and take away that negative stereotype. Personally, I think that's really relevant for when we're talking, in venues and talking about the wedding industry, because how I see it is you are helping couples solve the number one problem. As a venue, the number one thing that a couple needs to do is find where they're having their big day. They can't do anything else until they've booked it. It's the thing they're going to spend the most money on. It's also the thing that's going to have the wow factor. It's going to speak to who they are as a couple. And therefore, as you and your team are really there to help the couple solve that problem. And when we frame it like that, for me personally, I find that very exciting, because then it really helps get under the kind of bonnet of what you're trying to do with a couple and how you're trying to get your venue in front of those couples. So we're going to touch on this briefly and what you can do now. And I think it's fair to say that 2020 has been incredibly challenging and incredibly tough. And whilst we have some really positive signs going forward that we're going to, make some really good progress, we know that the first quarter, at the very least of next year, is still going to be quite challenging for your business. So there is still a number of things that you can do over this period to ensure that you're kind of maximizing the potential and the opportunity that your business has. And the first thing that we recommend is just really thinking about, in your mind, what is a reasonable and fair date that you think you are going to be able to return to doing weddings, and weddings of a kind of fairly decent size and are more normal than we currently are experiencing, because that will then allow you to plan towards that point. Then there's probably three things that you can look to do in the meantime. The first being lean into it. We've seen a number of different partners of ours really, lean into this smaller, what's called a micro, what people are coining a micro wedding. Is there something that you can do in that space? Key thing here is, does that work for your business? Does that drive return on investment? Because if not, perhaps that isn't the right thing to do. The second thing would be, how do you diversify what your business currently offers? Is there other things that you could be doing in the interim? And this is where it's been really fantastic to see some, amazing examples from across the industry of venues diversifying their offering to kind of really plow forward during this challenging times. The few I have on the screen are by no means kind of all of them. There were just a few kind of key examples that I wanted to highlight. So, could you do what Quantuck Lakes have done and open up their chef team and create their restaurant, which is Kitchen at Quantuck Lakes? Really great idea. For any fans of The Crown who are watching this season, you may recognize the picture in the top of the screen as being where they filmed a lot of the Downing Street scenes with Margaret Thatcher. It's actually Heads a House. So again, is that something you can do? And then we've also seen venues that have diversified into accommodation and offering that. Two examples here, which are really great, is Sandon Hall offered a drive-in cinema experience over the summer, and Gisborne Park there have done a pantomime drive-in. Lots of things you could look to do, and again, it comes down to that question: what can your business do? Does that work for you? Final thing in this space is, and again, I'm sure you've probably gone through this exercise already, but looking at costs is the things that you can look to cut at this stage that mean that you're giving yourself more leeway as a business. So really quick touching on what you can do now, and what we're going to now focus on is 2022 and beyond. So why focus on 2022? Number one thing that we're seeing at Bridebook is nearly 60% of our inquiries are for 2022 and beyond. Couples are booking further ahead now than we've seen before because of the current environment. So it means that for you as venues, that's going to be really important, particularly over engagement season. Excitingly, what we're not seeing is couples' confidence in their future wedding dropping. So you can see kind of like 3/4 of couples are saying their budget's going to remain the same in spite of lockdown, their guest numbers are going to remain the same, and nearly 90% of them, their plans are remaining the same. So it really shows that couples' confidence is there, that towards the end of 2021, 2022, they're going to be able to have the wedding of their dreams, and they're ready to start that planning process. That, coupled with engagement season coming up, really exciting time. And we're at Bridebook really set for kind of this to be our biggest yet. We're anticipating over 51,000 couples will join us. Between them, they're going to send about 84,000 inquiries. And we know that there's 80% of those couples haven't booked their venues yet when they join Bridebook. So there's a real opportunity there in the market that says, we've got the couples who feel confident that their wedding of their dreams is going to be able to happen. We know that there's certainly been no kind of holding back on getting married or getting engaged over this period. You know, the love is still there. So we're really excited by the fact that we really strongly feel that engagement season is going to be very exciting, and that couples are ready to make those purchases with their kind of original, if not better, wedding plans in mind. And that's why we think, you know, really focusing on that 2022 year is going to be incredibly important for venues to really make sure that you come out of this really challenging time and really push yourself forward. So onto the kind of meaty stuff of the conversation now. So we're going to talk in a lot of detail around two areas, which is one, creating that action plan, and two, executing on it. You know, that old kind of saying of failing to plan is planning to fail, I think rings very true here. So we're going to talk around a few key points around how you should be looking to plan and what we would recommend focusing on. So I am sure after the year you've all had that you have the best terms and conditions you could possibly imagine. But it's always worth just recapping on this. So I am by no means an expert in this space, but what we would really encourage is ensuring that your terms and conditions are allowing you to secure kind of upfront deposits and booking fees. That's going to really help with cash flow and with you feeling really confident about the future success of your business. So just ensuring that your terms and conditions set you up for that. The second point being, and again, teaching you all to suck eggs, no doubt, after the year we've just had, but being really, sure that you are very clear around refunds and postponements, just so that going forward, we're not faced with similar challenges that we've seen over the past year or so. And then the final point on this is, you know, we're expecting 2021, 2022 to be a bumper year. Is there anything in the business that's holding you back, particularly your license? So like looking at, we know some venues that it's a summer venue only, so they have a summer license. Is there ways that you can expand your current offering to ensure that you give yourselves the best opportunity to maximize revenue for next year? This has got to be what works for your business. Some of you might have kind of your full license and this isn't applicable, but really think about that. I think on the other side, what we are seeing is kind of local authorities really want to support businesses at this time, and now might be a really opportune moment for you to be going out there and applying for these things, because they are going to be more likely to grant it to you. Next, so Hamish ran a webinar on this last week around pricing strategy. If you would like to see the content, please do reach out to us. We'll be very happy to share it. I'm not going to go into all the detail around this now because, as I say, that's a whole session in itself. However, your pricing strategy is your best friend when it comes to selling. And the key takeaway I had from Hamish's webinar is it's to ensure that your prices are dynamic. And what we mean by this is that there is enough of a scope and a range between your really top desirable dates and some of your more off-peak ones, so that you can help lean into those pricing to help you sell. So the example we have kind of on the screen there is, unfortunately, our September dates, weekend dates are fully booked. However, we do have some Saturdays in October, and they are X amount less. That really helps your team fill those other dates because you're leaning into that pricing strategy to help you do that. So, as part of that planning, make sure that this is up to date and is going to help you to fill as much of your year as possible rather than work against you. Excuse me. As I say, please do reach out to us if you'd like us to reshare this with you. So, sure, I don't have to tell you this, but coming into engagement season, coming into 2021, 2022, what are your goals particularly when it comes to selling. What's the expectation on your team? How much do you want to fill? What key things do you want to focus on? And making sure they're really clear and you've communicated them widely, because this year's been tough. We know it has. It's been tough on everyone. What a great way to start 2021 with a really exciting, really kind of high energy engagement season. So this is a real opportunity for you to use this to motivate your team, re-inject, all that energy back into the business, showcase your passion and get really excited, because there's going to be, it's going to be a busy time for the industry. And here, you know, challenge yourself. Is there things that you can do more of? Really think about, like, this is an opportunity for you to maximize revenue, to recover losses that you've experienced in 2020. So if you previously have only ever done weekend weddings, is there a way that your business can flex to do some weekday ones as well? Can you, if you've just done summer, can you look to do weddings either side of that in those shoulder months to really bolster your business and drive that forward? And this is where I get incredibly geeky, but talk about data. Data in selling is your best friend. And there's two key things that we could recommend you looking back on and using to inform your decisions going forward. And one, that would be your pipeline from past years, and two, that would be your availability. So with your pipeline from past years, hopefully you have a good amount of data that shows you, the journey that you take couples on, and your volumes in each. If you don't, not to worry. I'd recommend you start recording that. But intrinsically, I think you'd have a sense of where your challenges are in that process. And the two key questions to ask yourself at this stage is, what part of my kind of funnel and my couple's journey is my limiting factor? Because how you solve that is going to be very different. So, for example, if you've got a low volume of inquiries, that's a very different challenge to solve than if you've got a challenge of quality of inquiries. And then the second bit is, where do couples drop off? So where am I seeing a lot of couples that I'm losing in that process, and why is that? What's the reasoning behind us not seeing couples kind of move on to the next step? So to bring this to life, for example, um, if you're limiting factor, you can start asking yourself questions like, are my listings working hard enough for me? Do I need to optimize those pages? Could I be doing more on those? Am I on the right listings? Do I have enough coverage? Is my SEO working well for me? How is my social media performing? Am I getting my venue out there in the right places to make sure I'm being seen by as many people as possible? And quick plug for Bridebook, if you would like help with optimizing your Bridebook profile, again, please reach out to us and we'd be more than happy to give you some hints and tips on how to do that. Um, Again, it might be actually that your limiting factor is quality of inquiries, and therefore, how do you solve that problem? Are you hiding prices at that first stage? So you're getting a lot of couples come through who can't afford you, and therefore, is a quick fix actually putting prices on things so that it automatically, couples self-select out because they know they can't, that's not going to be out of their budget? Are the things that you can do to really, incentivize couples to book a show around? What are those little tricks that you can do to make sure your process is as efficient as possible? And then the bit around couples dropping off is really integral. Understanding why someone doesn't book with you is as valuable as understanding why they have. So maybe you have a really great show round process, but actually there's something missing in terms of the couples aren't converting into bookings, and what is that? And really understanding and getting into the nitty gritty of that really is invaluable. If I use the example of Heads a House, they, always looking at how to review their process, and they started sending feedback forms to couples who didn't book to ask them why. One of the things that came out of that, which they never expected to be the case, was a lot of couples didn't book because they didn't like the red carpet in the dining room. How specific and how bizarre that that's a common thread, but they would never have got that information had they not asked a question. And then just by changing that carpet, it had a huge impact on couples booking. So you can see actually there might be things in your process that you have no idea are putting couples off or are, you know, making couples choose other venues, but actually could be really easy to fix. So ensuring you have a good sight of that data is really going to help inform where you spend time optimizing and where you spend time marketing. And the second point on that is really just understanding your availability. Where are your patterns? Where are your gaps? And therefore, can you build your marketing campaign around that? And the really obvious example, and hence why I've got a snowy picture in the deck here, is if you've got huge gaps in winter, can you ensure that actually you're showcasing more winter weddings in your marketing materials to really highlight how great your venue looks when it is in the snow or when it is at winter time, and really help use that to drive couples to kind of come to you because of that reason. And this data kind of is your, you know, really helps you make those really informed choices, because what we know is 2021 engagement season is going to be busy and you want to be spending your time effectively, because you might be doing that with a smaller team than you have done previously, or you might be doing that with a team that's, you know, still on furlough, and therefore your time is going to be your most valuable resource. Just to answer your question, Rebecca, they sent feedback forms out, uh, or heads have sent feedback forms out to all those couples who didn't book, and then they really got that feedback that way. So, leading me on to the next bit, which is hopefully the bit where everyone gets very excited, it's your ability to be creative. We know 2021 and 2022 are going to be busy years. We're all going to be in the same boat of doing a big sales push. You know, we all want to make sure our venues stand out. So really, you know, take the time over um, Christmas and now to really think about, like, what makes you unique? What makes your venue unique? What do you do differently that other people don't do? So you can really think about, how do I stand out from the crowd? Because those things that make you unique are ultimately what attracts couples to you. So really make sure you're highlighting that, whether that's, you know, you're just a fantastic team who cares so deeply about the couple. Like, you're going to go above and beyond for everything. How does that come across? How do you use your reviews, your testimonials, the stories you tell to do that message? It could be that, you know, your venue is so unique in your area. How do you really push that? How do you make sure that's forefront so you can really stand out from the crowd? Now, I'm certainly not the expert who's going to tell you all the answers and have all the ideas, but there's lots of things you could do. So really think about, you know, how do you make your open day appointments, wedding fairs exciting for couples? I know it's challenging at the moment. Can you host these virtually? Are you doing those things that help engage them early on? Think about the time now. Can you style some shoots to, you know, to that point of hitting the market of weddings that are in certain seasons? How can you use special offers? Where are you using special offers? Does that help kind of push your marketing, and using all these tools to be really effective? So once you've got this amazing marketing plan, obviously the key thing is executing on it. There's no point spending all this time thinking about it, creating an amazing document that outlines everything if it's not going to be used and actioned. And we've got kind of 4 key tips here just to how you bring that to life. And the first being, really focus on those high priority dates. Focus on those dates that you know are really popular and get them filled. There's kind of 3 reasons for this. The first being, those deposits will do more to support your business kind of in the short term than other dates. So really make sure you're looking to prioritize selling those. A second part is, once they're booked, they can't be used for any potential postponements we might see over 2021. Hopefully we don't, but there is still risk of that. So make sure those high value dates are booked in. Now, I know this may sound counterintuitive and often people will say to me, well, I want to give the couples the best experience, and I, completely understand that. Just think about it from a business perspective. You've lost a lot of those dates already in 2021. Let's not lose them again in 2022. And hopefully the majority of couples are going to be understanding if you say, I'm really sorry, we can't move you to that date because someone else has already booked. So just think about that. And finally, it's a great morale boost. If you know those dates are going to be easier to fill, what a great way to start the year, by really focusing on that and getting the team excited by it, so you can celebrate and share and get excited when you've got all those dates booked. Because hey, who doesn't love to start the year and start January with lots of bookings? So really use that to kind of invigorate and excite the team with that. But obviously, it's a bumper year, and the off days are probably where you're gonna really see, the ability to kind of make more revenue. So then focus on those days. This is where you've done that great piece of work. You've got your new pricing grid. It's really dynamic, and that is your best friend to help your team sell. So really think about, how do I make that midweek date look like such a bargain in comparison to the Friday, so that it's dead easy to move people to it because they've fallen in love with your venue. They want to get married there. How do you make it so they stay when they can't get the date that they want? And this is a really great way to do that. It also helps you fill and maximize the revenue potential across the whole of the year and the period that you're looking to fill. Excuse me for a second. I'm just going to grab a drink of juice. And then the final bit on this is, using your special offers again to help make those periods more attractive. And key bit of advice here would be, really consider upgrades over discounts, because they're going to have a vastly smaller financial impact on you. So thinking about, could you offer, for example, a free upgrade for an evening extension, which is equivalent of £1,000, for example, excuse me, is going to have a much better, much smaller, financial impact on your business over offering a £1,000 discount. So really be smart with those offers that you're giving and how you can really get couples kind of to focus on those dates with the things that you're able to offer. Key thing will be, and what you'll want to see, is driving couples to book now. Again, this is where kind of your pricing tool, those incentives, really help them to have a reason to book. We don't want to do that classic, what's it called, estate agent trick of getting 30 odd people to come and view the house all at the same time, so you feel under immense pressure to put an offer in. That's not what we're talking about here. But what can you do to help them go, you know what, I am going to book now. I want to choose you over the other venues I'm looking at. What are those incentives? What are those upgrades that you can give them that really drive that behavior? Think about as well in the interim, like, is the ways that, if, for example, we continue to see challenges around couples being able to go to visit your venue, how do you combat this? Do you have some virtual tours or video tours that they can do in the interim so they can hold the date? And that's really key to making sure you can maximize couples. So when they come to you, actually they've seen the venue, they're 90% sure they want to go for it, and they do it. And speaking from personal experience, and it's not me getting married, it's my best friend, she was dead set on the venue. She'd done all the video tours. She only held off to go and see it just to do it, but she was going to book, and it was just a really good way of making sure she felt really engaged throughout that process, so that it was kind of a done deal when she got there. And then finally, who else? So we know it's going to be a busy time. Do you have the right team to be successful? Really just think about that, particularly, as I say, when potentially you're facing challenges around smaller team size than you've had before, team on furlough, reduced hours, all those things. And one consideration that we would, really recommend is, who else is there that could help? Are there other people in the team whose job isn't typically to be, the front end dealing with customers to sell, but could they help in that process? You never know who might end up being a secret sales wizard that's been hiding in your team that you could really activate during this time. So hopefully that's been helpful. Hopefully that's given you some hints and tips. One thing we would really encourage is thinking about 2023 and beyond. Set yourself up for future success. Invariably, there's going to be couples that will be dead set on the August date. Just don't lose them because you haven't thought through your pricing for 2023 and 2024. Make sure those are there, because it's a great way just to make sure you can capture those couples and say, well, actually, our August dates of 2022 are booked, but we do have availability in 2023. How what are your thoughts on that, and getting them in that way? So I'm coming to a close. I'm going to ask for your attention for 3 more minutes, just to go through some of the stuff that I'm really passionate about, which is the psychology of persuasion. So hopefully you can implement some of these in your process with your team, to really help, again, maximize your ability to be selling. Number one, questions are invaluable. They're your best selling tool. And the more questions you ask, the easier it's going to be to convince that couple that you're the right venue for them. I am sure you all do this amazingly well as is, but this is all about really understanding the couple, understanding what they want, because that gives you the power and the information to be able to tailor how you then talk about your venue to them, to those points that are really important. Also gives you an opportunity to go, are we a good fit? Is this going to be right? Because it has to work both sides. You have to be able to offer them what they're after, and those questions can really unpick that. The great thing is, the more questions you ask, the more the couple is going to feel heard, the more the couple is going to feel understood. And hey, who doesn't want to feel heard and understood? They're going to walk away from that show round with your venue feeling warm and fuzzy inside, because you have shown them so much, kind of paid so much attention to them. You showed them so much care that they're just going to walk away with a really good feeling about you. And that is a massive part of you selling the venue and you selling you and your team. My second top tip is, don't be scared of getting into a bit of a negotiation. Again, how many of us have got something for the price and then felt a bit deflated afterwards because you've gone, could I have got it for less? Could I have got a bit more from that process? I'm buying a house at the moment, and definitely have had moments like that where we've negotiated on a few bits and I've thought, bugger, have I done enough there? And we're strange kind of creatures, humans. We like to feel we've worked for something. This will be the same for couples. It's a psychological thing. Don't be scared of getting into a bit of a negotiation. You might have been willing to offer that discount for them anyway, but if you do it in a way that feels like they've got something more from you, they're going to feel really excited that they've booked with you. They're going to feel like they've got a really good deal, and hey, that again gives them a really good feeling. And the last bit from me, the power of reciprocation. And this is essentially the power of doing favors. Human society is built on, if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's also, massively frowned upon for you not to return a favor as a societal thing. And you can really tap into this whilst you're selling. And what I mean by that is asking for something in return when you're offering something. So, for example, what you could say is, if I'm able to offer you that upgrade to the free extension on the evening license, would you be able to let me know by the end of this week if you'd like to book? So you can see how there you've done them a favor, you are asking for something in return, and therefore they're obligated to do that. You're not putting undue pressure on them. You're giving yourself quite a nice timeline. It all feels very nice, and it's a really powerful thing to tap into as part of your selling process. So that is everything from me. I would love for you now to kind of fire any questions you have at me, ask me anything that I can hopefully offer advice on. Yes, so over to you. Okay, so nothing coming in at the moment, which either means I've done an amazing job or I've not done a good enough job. Um, does Fantastic. Thank you, Charlotte. Um, okay, yes, that is something really common that we see. So Charlotte's asked a question of we keep getting stuck at the inquiry stage, lots of inquiries, but few responses. Any advice? And I suppose what it would be really interesting to understand from you, Charlotte, is what's your kind of process like? How many times do you follow up? Do you just respond with an email? Do you send do you do a phone call as well? What does that kind of process look like? As, I'm sorry, I don't know if you're still on mute. Um, okay, email with personalized details initially and brochure. Okay, fab. So first thing I would recommend is potentially following up with that. There's really strange stats that say like, yeah, okay, follow up 1 week later, great. So look at, you know, is there stuff that you can see that gives them a hook? Is there something you can offer at that point that gives them an incentive to respond? Is there ways that you can get them booked in on kind of like a virtual tour, anything like that? I would also recommend what we works really well with sometimes is sending them an email that says, okay, so we haven't heard from you. Am I okay to stop contacting you about this? That is amazing the power that that gets in terms of a response to say, oh yeah, really sorry we didn't get back to you. We found another venue. At least then you know um, you're getting a response. You know, sometimes a no is as valuable as as a yes. Hopefully that helps.
Amazing, thank you. What kind of things would you suggest using as a hook?
Good question. Um, Again, probably special offers. If we can get you booked in on a show round this week, I'm able to offer X, Y, and Z. Um, videos, video messaging. I don't know if any of you have ever tried this. It is the most probably the most cringe thing you'll ever have to do, but video, like a personalized video message, works really well in terms of sales response, and that is just a piece of you to a camera saying, "Hey, really excited about having you come see the venue." It's like a little additional thing to go above and beyond, and it's a surprise. Couples aren't used to seeing that, so trying out some of those tactics to see if they kind of hook them in, get them more excited. um it can feel very unnatural, but it's very, very powerful.
So we invite clients to come back with family members, so they've then got an independent view as well.
Great. Yeah, that's a really nice one, Sarah. Giving them that option.
Mm.
So, and your question is next, Sarah, actually. So, things like that, yes, on the reciprocal, can asking the photography, all that kind of stuff. The favor you ask could be as small as saying, if I do this today, are you able to give me a quick review on how the show round was? If we do this together, could you give me that? It doesn't really matter what the favor is. It's just more about the act of asking for it really helps cement that relationship. So I think that's a really great example. And for everyone else, asking the photographer for the use of pictures and advertising and naming them, I think that's a really great example. So then the next question is from Alice. Yes, and Alice's question is, how would you advise we ask permission for use of photos from couples, as presumably this should be agreed at the booking stage? I would have that up front, most definitely. Are we able to use your photos? Again, potentially use that as a tool in your negotiation arsenal. Okay, yeah. So if we're going to do this for you, could we use your couple your photos going forward. Think about where you want that, again, make sure it's written down. That's the key things that you can go back and ask them going forward. But I would say earlier the better, because it's part of the process then. Preface it with saying this is just a standard question we ask everyone: can we use your photos? Does anybody else have any questions? Those are all the ones that are in the chat so far, unless I've missed anyone. Flag. Okay, lovely stuff. We're here to help. Please do reach out to us. Oh, Dina, thank you. Do you need to get written permissions from couples to use their photos? I would advise that that is the case. I don't think you necessarily have to. It's always just more helpful to have a paper trail. I think the key thing to be really mindful of is the photographer, and are they happy for you to use their photos, and having that kind of sign up, because that's where potentially you could come unstuck. So just be really mindful of that you're not breaching kind of any photographer's copyright by using their photos.
What we've also done, because we have outside caterers come in, we get the caterers to serve their own separate terms and conditions on what they can use, where they can dispose of, say, wastewater, things like that as well. So, and then we also ask for a copy of their PAT testing, their insurances, their health and safety, so that obviously if anybody came and inspected or anything happens, we've got within that wedding pack for that couple all that information that we can then hand over.
Great. And I think, yeah, that's fantastic. So you are like, you've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's there. Brilliant. My view on all of this is you can never be too careful. You can never do too much in that respect.
Yeah, I like having my umbrella.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. One thing before we finish that I am going to ask is, or talk to, is we're here to help. We are coming to engagement season. We would love to make sure that we're working together effectively. Please do reach out to us. As I say, we've got lots of other things going on in terms of the webinar series, so keep an eye out, and we are here to support. Before you all drop off and before I wrap up, I'm not going to ask you to write this down or say it out loud, but we, again, the psychology, we know if we commit to something, we write something down, we're more likely to action it and do it. So I would love you all just to think now for a couple of minutes, write down on a piece of paper or a note next to you or on your computer, what's the one thing that I'm going to do off the back of today? As I said before, if there's nothing, you can drop me an email afterwards and say, hey, I didn't get anything out of that. You didn't do a good enough job. And I'll be happy to have a conversation with you to see how else I could help. And then that just leaves me to say thank you very much for your time today, and we'll close it off there.